I wanted to welcome you here, Chancellor. You're coming up on 1 year here in the region. I looked back at that earlier, and I was like, "Oh, that's sort of a cool milestone." I think it was July of last year that you started out. You've gotten yourself immersed into IU Northwest culture, into the IU culture, into the Northwest Indiana culture, into your specific campus culture. Tell me, maybe begin with who is the Chancellor,
Right.
and then we'll touch on a little bit and how have you learned to love the region, and then talk a little bit about leadership. But introduce us to who Chancellor is.
All right. Well, good morning, and again, very good, happy to be here, and always an opportunity to amplify the voice of IUN, or Indiana University Northwest. As for me, I'm Dr. Arrick Jackson. I won't say new anymore. I've been here since July 1, and coming up July 1 to be my first year. But I'm originally from Saginaw, Michigan, born and raised. And so, like many of our students, I graduated, not the best student, although I tell my kids I was really great, but realized
For
that
full disclosure, I barely made it out of high school and college, so like I'm not a super ace.
Yeah, and though my mother made me go to the community college for at least 1 year. I was too young. I wanted to go into the military right away, but I was too young to sign myself in. And so I went to Delta College, a community college there, for about a year. Didn't do as well as I thought. Again, just like many students that I've had the opportunity to serve. And so after I did a year of that, I let that go and decided to join the military. And so I joined the United States Army. My first 3 years were field artillery, and so had a great experience with that. Also had the chance to earn my parachutist badge, so I was able to jump out of airplanes and all that. So it was an exciting time, especially when you're young and just trying to make some changes and start your life.
It's always interesting when someone says, "I had the opportunity to jump out of airplanes," and you're like, "God dang, I'm still trying to figure out if that's an opportunity or not."
It was a wild experience, but I learned a lot of leadership lessons out of that training experience. And one lesson I probably can get to a little later about how not to quit. That is not part of the vocabulary of a airborne soldier, is how I was told.
I love that.
And so I did 3 years, spent time in Korea during the Gulf War at that time. North Korea was threatening to attack South Korea, so a 12-month tour turned into almost a 24-month tour for me, and so we had to stay in place. I was on a demilitarized zone, and so right there on the DMZ. So really just looking at North Korea, they're looking at us. And then my term of 3 years ended while I was in Korea. And so I re-enlisted again for another 3 years as a military intelligence analyst. And so that took me to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. And I received training there and wound up in Fort Hood, Texas, and did my final 3 years in there in Fort Hood, Texas. By that time, I realized that my mother always told me, "You need to go to school and get an education," even when I was young. So that's how I wound up in the community
Amazing how
college.
those things your mom tells you, like, stick with you later on.
Yeah, and so I decided to get out at that time and go to college full time. And so at that time, I was married to my wife at that time, and she was still in the service, and she got orders to go to Alaska. So that's how I wound up in Alaska. And so I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice from University of Alaska in Fairbanks. Then we had our son, and she decided to get out the military at that time as well. And then we both moved to Pullman, Washington, to go to Washington State University for grad school. And so I worked on my master's degree there in criminal justice with the idea that I was going to be a police officer. And went to Seattle Police Department, tried out, did everything. It was great. The physical was great. The interviews came up, and they gave me scenarios. And after that scenario process, at the end of it, they told me I was too reluctant to shoot people. And so, and, and so I didn't think it was a bad thing,
Yeah.
but apparently it was not what they were looking for at that time. And so then I went back to the university to finish up the rest of my degree. But I had a Dean Nye, and he pulled me in and he said, "Look, we gave you a scholarship for your master's degree, and so we have scholarship funds for your PhD, if you want to stay." And I said, "Sure." Apparently,
Wow.
I'm not going to be a police officer at this moment, and so I stayed for the doctorate degree. And then there was some in political science, and so there was some troubles within the political science department about mentorship and things of that nature. And so he recognized that, and he said, "Well, I'm gonna put you with Dr. Don Dillman. He's over the Social Economic Sciences Research Center." And so I was mentored by Don Dillman. He's one of the gurus of survey design, and he really laid out how you can get a better than 30%, almost 80% of a survey response if you do these things properly.
Really?
And so he's really good at it. But he also taught me how to write grants and how to do other types of research. So it really fed into many of the things that I've done over my career. And so he has always been a very strong mentor of mine as well. Not so much in touch now, but he had a great impact on my life during that time.
Yeah.
And then I started to finish up there. And then Velma, when thinking of mentors, Velma Burton, he was also a mentor of mine. But he moved to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, at Southeast Missouri State University. And then he reached out before I had completed my dissertation and said, "Would you like to come down there and be a professor? We're looking to fill a role, and I can really get you in here, and here we can structure your contract so we can make it easy to finish your dissertation." And so they gave
Is a
me.
dissertation ever easy?
No, not easy. But the less obstacles.
But they were
you have.
helping you along the way.
Yeah. So they help pay all costs to complete the dissertation, courses, travel, copies at that time. And then all along through that process, he was always write 2 pages a day, write 2 pages a day. And then eventually I completed the dissertation and then became a assistant professor, got promoted and those things, and eventually became an associate professor with tenure, grants, articles, publications. So things were going well. And then an associate dean role came open, and I, as a interested professor, I decided I would go ask and see how can I be an associate dean. And at that time, I was told I did not have enough administrative experience to be an associate dean. And so, a little disappointed. And at that time, I decided, well, I'm going to get that administrative experience. So I gave up my faculty role, gave up my tenure, and left and became assistant coordinator at the University of North Texas Dallas campus. It was a new campus. They were just building it. Programs were going there. And so they hired me as an assistant professor, so I went backwards. And so, and sometimes you have to go backwards to go forward.
Absolutely.
No, that's one of the most common leadership lessons that just happens throughout life. So it was an interesting time. I had a chance to build a program. I had a chance to teach and connect with students, and it was just great. But the new president, he came in, and he wasn't interested in tenure.
Okay.
And then he decided that he didn't like assistant professors. He wanted everybody to be a lecturer. And so it's a career decision, saying if someone saw my resume, they would say associate professor, assistant professor, lecturer, sort of like, what did he do?
What's the common stroke here? That's discouraging.
He's going the wrong way. So then I decided to become an associate professor at the Denton campus in Texas, Denton, Texas. Did that for a little while, and then a dean position at Tarrant County College in Fort Worth, Texas came open. I applied for it, and Elva, a mentor of mine as well along the way, she told me, after she hired me, she told me that just follow the money, and and I want to have a greater control and accountability of the budget and things of that nature. But that started me down the path of understanding budgets and how they work and how money flows in a university, goes out of university, how you can generate alternative revenue, all those different things.
How do you fund all these great parts of education that are rewarding and helpful in everybody's leadership, but you got to pay for them?
Yeah, you do. And then you have to be creative in how you get that. And so, but interestingly though, even though I didn't get a chance to be a police officer, one of the areas I was over was a police academy. so now I'm training police officers, and I was also
Talking about full circle, yeah.
Yeah, and so now I'm also over a fire academy. So I had a police academy, fire academy, and when you look at the academies there in Texas, it was like the Disneyland of fire training. I mean, we had a whole mock city in the back. Through that experience, I was able to build or lead the building of $8.2 million indoor firing range. It was just fantastic. You dim the lights, bring your car in. The ventilation system, it sucked all the lead out of the air and then replenished everything with new fresh air. We did all kinds of bomb training, vehicle defensive training. It was amazing. But due to success there, I was then promoted to the Vice President of Continuing Education, where I then worked with businesses and industry to bring business into the college. And so I had a chance to do aviation, upholstery, jewelry making, horticulture, florist, really sewing.
Yeah.
It was just an amazing experience, but it taught me a lot along the way about how to build partnerships, work with the community, amplify the voice of the college.
Find out who they want to hire.
Right.
Yeah.
And build those student bodies to feed into that. Railroad was one of the ones, BNSF Railroad. We had that program and created the individuals that operate the switches of when a train goes, when a train does not go. So that was just a fun experience, but broadened my knowledge about a variety of different things and about how universities work, how we work in a system, how we work in partnerships. So then I had the opportunity to really go back to my original goal as wanting to be a dean at a four-year institution. And Ferris State University opportunity came available, and I left Tarrant County and went to Ferris State up in Big Rapids, Michigan. So that was a lot of fun. I did 3 years there, grant writing, led a police academy and a criminal justice department, education, digital media. So I've had a great deal of exposure to a variety of different programs. And that
Almost seems like there's no program you haven't participated, helped lead, coordinated, digested, expanded.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity came open in Minnesota State University in Moorhead to be the vice president for academic affairs. They didn't want to hire me as a provost because they had some instability in that role. So the provosts before me, there were 5 of them, and so they didn't last any more than about a year. And so the president, Ann, at that time, she just had us series. She had 5 turnovers in that role. So the faculty didn't believe that bringing someone in at the provost level was a smart idea. So they brought me as a vice president. But I had a chance to lead all the academic programs within the university. So we offered doctorate degrees, master's degrees, undergraduate as well programs, and then also leaned into business partnerships. So all those things that were part of my history really came into play here. The institution was facing some real financial challenges, like all higher education institutions, and it was a challenging time because I had to reduce about 10% of the university's budget and get rid of about probably 30 programs within the institution, and then set the institution in a right position to be able to succeed. And so we were able to do that work as a team. It was really impactful, but I really emphasized that we can make these adjustments, but we can also grow. And so as we were making the adjustments to reduce programs, we were also making the adjustments to build programs. And so through that process, I took the university through a visioning process of what it could be and how we are going to position ourselves to be right in 5 years. We built 5 new graduate programs, several undergraduate programs, changed the modality from face-to-face only to hybrid, online, launched a grant initiative of $36 million, and within 18 months we had about $18 million in grant funding to support programs, leverage all the data we can to build. So all those things that were part of my history or career came to play at that level. After doing that work, then Ann said, yes, we will promote you to provost. As I became the provost for academic affairs. Then we had some leadership turnover, and because of the work, they gave me student affairs. So now I had both sides of the house, really, the enrollment piece, and we had a new leader come in. And about 7 years in that role, and then this opportunity came open. And I wasn't necessarily, I just bought a home, and Brian, he was the search consultant. He said, I have the perfect role for you. And I said, really? He said, yes, it's in Gary, Indiana. I'm like, oh, okay. And he said, I encourage you to submit. And so I submitted my package. And next thing you know, he called and said, hey, they want to visit with you. And then I was here interviewing. And it was a great interview. Got a chance to see the campus, got a chance to see the people, and look at the programs a little closer. And the more I talk with everyone, the more I fell in love with the institution. And by the time the interview process was over, I went back home and said, well, I really hope they give me a call and let me know this is the role for me. And sure enough, they called and said, hey, we would like to bring you on board. And last July 1, came here, started connecting with the community. My predecessor, Ken Awama, did a great job connecting with the community and amplifying the voice of the university. So really just connecting into what he was doing, as well as setting a new vision, really, for the university, kind of like what I did in previous role. And so through that process, we've identified, we have a strategic plan. We have 3 pillars for the university overall, but there were 6 things that really drives the work that we do now. And one of them is what we call owning our own backyard. And that really has to do with enrollment and building the student body, building a community among students, and getting more people interested in what Indiana University Northwest can do for the region. We are a public asset. We're a valuable asset to the community, the region, to business and industry. And through that approach, we amplify how we do that. And so far, coming into this fall, we are 5% up in enrollment, and so we're tracking. And so
it's outstanding
yeah.
in a very challenging enrollment environment.
Yeah. And the impressive thing about that enrollment piece is this time we're up in all categories of enrollment: graduate, transfer, new students, and I forget the other, dual credit and things like that. So we're all firing on all cylinders. Now the trick is to bring it in, and then come census day, that 5% is still there. And so, but we were up last fall as well. So riding the momentum and doing some of the best practices to drive that enrollment piece has been really helpful. The other, like I said, there were 6, but one of the others is about facilities and how, when we get them here, what are they coming to? And so we hired a new facilities leader, and we've done some great work to enhance the beauty of the campus. We now have flowers, and we had a water feature that was, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. And so now we have that working, like a waterfall and a pond, really. It's a beautiful place for students and visitors to see. We've also realigned our enrollment units, and so we now have a new leader. She's been there for a while, but she's now the full-time leader in that role of enrollment management. We've hired our new vice chancellor for academic affairs, and so we're building that team, but still doing the work necessary to move the university forward. Just like in Minnesota this time, I established a $50 million grant goal when we got here, and so far we've submitted about $9 million in grants proposals with the hope that we'll have a positive outcome. So we're still keeping our fingers crossed, but if you do the work, things will then fall your way.
And it sounds like that's the common theme in all of your story is if you do the work, things will sort of come your way.
Yeah.
And in every single circumstance, it sounds like, if I'm paraphrasing, you basically said, okay, I want to do this, but there's a challenge to that, so I'm going to have to do this, and then I'll learn that, and then, oh, well, I want to do this. Well, there's a challenge to that. Okay, well, I'm going to have to either step back or step aside or step forward, whatever it is, but I'm going to take that challenge. It's almost like you're a university student that's taken every single course in the university, and then as a university person, you're like, okay, now I want to lead every department in the university because I have a very well-rounded education.
Yeah, yeah. And I think when I did the interview as well, here and other places, I remind people that I intentionally sat in every seat that I could in the university so I can understand what it would be like as a leader from that role, especially if I'm going to be the leader of you. And then what does it look like for you? What are your challenges? And how can I help you get through those pieces? That I feel makes me a better leader. But at the same time, it allows me the opportunity to pour into people, just like people have poured in me. I mentioned Don Dillman and all those individuals that are along the path. But if we go back a little bit further, I just remember when I was in high school, I think we had to read do a book summary, and Dr. Pratt. I forget the book I had chose, but apparently it was not up to his standard. And then I remember him grabbing me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Eric, I think you're a very conscientious young man, so I want you to read Animal Farm." And so he gave me that book to read, and that was in the 11th grade, and to write a summary on it. And I thought it was entertaining then. But if you fast forward to my doctorate program, it was required reading for the PhD program.
Really?
And so it was, that also came full circle. But the other pieces of my life, I lost my parents when I was very young, and so my mother was murdered when I was 6 months, just about. So I never had the opportunity to meet her. And then my father died of a heart attack when I was 9 years old. When you think about the mentors, my stepmother, Frances, my mother now, she was in my life the whole way that said education is what you need and always giving us advice. And I just remember one of the things I do remember is she always said, whenever I was upset or felt like my feelings were hurt, she said, "You got 15 minutes to cry about it, and then after that, the world's going to go on with you or without you. How do you want it?" And so I like it to go on with me.
Yeah.
So you take that 15 minutes and then you get up and get going at it again. My Uncle Terry, even though he's passed away now as well, he used to always pull me to the side. He wasn't necessarily a college-going person, but he was, he
had wisdom.
Yeah, and he was interesting. He had an interesting way of life. Back then, jobs are hard for African American men to find, so there was an economy within the community that he leaned into. But he would always say, "Just be a nerd. Don't follow me. I'm doing this. I have to do it. But you go to school, be a nerd, read those books." And he would have me over his house about 3 in the morning watching movies about friendships and mentorships and leadership and just the great conversations we used to have. And then there was my cousin Benny along the way that would say things like, "If you're going to do something, don't do it because you're African American. Do it because you're actually good at it and want to believe in doing that work, and it's valuable to you." And so, people along the way continued to speak into me as I moved forward throughout my life, and they still do even today.
Yeah.
You know, people still remind me of different things because you get to a certain point you have to be refreshed. So
Every step along the way, you probably need some humbling
Yeah.
from others around you that are like, "Oh my gosh, you're growing so good," but actually you're still sort of a goof nut, like boom, boom, boom. Wives, mothers, aunts, all those people tend to do a lot of that.
Yeah. But I was, even though I had some loss, I was raised by a great community of people and met a great deal of people along my leadership journey and just my life journey. And they spoke into me. I leaned on them, and some we grew together, some we just gave advice and grew separately. But along the way, you have to have those mentors throughout your life, and to have that type of leadership that you want to have.
Well, and you got to be a good student along the way if you're going to absorb all of that and say, no, I'm going to be a little bit smarter now.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about what's inside of a school, what's inside of a library, what's inside of your phone.
Yeah.
All the infinite knowledge in the world, but you got to actually go want to study it, learn it, and then apply it.
Absolutely.
How do you take, let's bring some of that now to IU Northwest. How do you take some of those leadership lessons? You got to oversee a big campus, tons of students, lots of teachers and administrators and facilities, sports, all kinds of stuff. How do you transfer that leadership to them? How do you transfer that experience to them? How do you become all those people you just described that invested in you?
Yeah, I'm often asked, in these interviews or when I'm applying for roles, what's your leadership style? And I remember when I was back in Minnesota, I would meet with my team, and we had these retreats, and then I'd ask them too about their leadership style, being how they were going to lead and feed into the university. And, we all at some point had that very textbook response. I'm a situational leader. I'm a collaborative leader. A strategic leader, something of that
White
nature.
noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I began to think about it. I'd say, well, I don't know if that's the leader you are. So let's have a retreat and let's talk about our true north. I mean, what really drives you? And when I began to think about it, it was the things that happened to me probably on a playground as a child, and how I negotiated issues as a young child, trying to get through neighborhood conflicts, manage my baby brothers, and manage my household chores, and try to manage my parents deciding whether I go left or go right. And sometimes I didn't want to listen, but you find ways to be strategic about that. But I really leaned into that, and what I discovered that my leadership style is really a caring one. I had to care for my brother and make sure, where's his shoes? Where did you brush his hair? Did you help him get his teeth brushed? And where's your cousin? And where's this? And are you leading them? And so I think over the life, having been in the military too, having a platoon of 40 soldiers, you have to look out for them. Do you inspect them? Make sure they're where they're supposed to be, listen to them, et cetera, et cetera.
Do some of the same things that you did for your little brother.
Yes.
Essentially, just a big boy version.
Yeah. And throughout my whole career, it's been that. How's my team? How are your employees? You hear their stories, and they have the same life challenges. Especially in higher education, a lot of employees are older. And so I have had employees that their wives had dementia, they had to leave and go home, leave early, things like that, or there was a car accident or something, or there was some loss throughout life. And so when I think about my interaction with them, it really is a caring leadership style. And so when I'm leading, it's really putting that care and caring about the work you do. And when you do that, you will be mindful of how you build your strategic plan. You will be mindful of how you develop and leverage data to do something within the institution, thinking about the people you're going to impact, whether that be the students or whether that be the faculty or whether that be the staff or the community at large. And so what's the impact you're having and why are you trying to have that impact? And so being very mindful when making leadership decisions, being compassionate and being just attentive to the things that are important to people as I assumed many of these roles. And so that's been reflected in all of my work. And so I think that's the leadership style, and that's how I leaned into IU Northwest as well, as if I'm bringing in that leadership style, when I think about how we drive student enrollment, then think about the things you're going to have in place to make sure those students are successful. For example, we have the Hard Rock Cafe partnership, but they provide a scholarship for students that graduate from Gary, and we didn't have as many students as we wanted, and so now we leaned into wrapping 2 buses, driving around town, putting advertisement on a bus stop, and to drive enrollment from that to get take advantage of that scholarship. So we had some success in there, but also we then leaned back and say, okay, if they come, then do we have somebody to meet, greet them, mentor them, and guide them to completion?
Who's their person?
Yeah, who's their person? So we worked and identified a person to do that. And then we have other people throughout our university that are there and they're prepared to mentor, guide, and provide all these things. We have a new Student Success Center that just was completed last January, I believe. So we have new furniture, new rooms, and the students are engaging in there. But we also have people in there that care about what those students are going to be experiencing. So really building a team that cares about our students, and building a team that cares about our finances, our facilities, how we look and how we communicate, and cares about our partnerships that we build throughout Northwest Indiana. So I think that whole approach to how we do business at Indiana University Northwest is an excellent way to engage the community.
It's, if I had to pick a theme, it seems very thoughtful, very mindful, very thoughtful. Like whatever we're going to do, let's do it with very thorough intent and great care, as you said, but also like it's still got to balance math and science and logistics and all that kind of stuff, but let's just do it in a nice kind of way.
Right. And I've said many times too, look, this isn't the first rodeo for higher education. There's probably 70 years of research to tell you exactly what you were supposed to be doing. And so if we lean into that research and take advantages of those best practices, the blueprint is there. It's just all about the implementation, and then leaning into that, being mindful or thoughtful about how we do that. We've seen things go up, we've seen things fail, and then we watched the process, and then we tried something else. All throughout my career, you've seen that. So why would I lean into the same process with a failing strategy?
Yeah.
So let's do something different than what was done, say at the last institution or something of that nature.
How do you, last focus area is, what would you tell all those young leaders that are in school, not even your own leaders that are working in the departments, but what would you tell those folks that are just graduating, they're in college? What would you want to know as young Arrick?
Well, right now, what I do say is be curious and ask questions and be open to different opportunities as they present themselves. I had a vice president one time. She asked me, because I think I had a grant fall my way, a couple of them probably, and a couple other things that we consider success at that time happened. And she said, "Are you lucky or you just that good?" And first I was insulted.
But then she made you wonder.
Yeah, but then when I thought about it, I just answered both. Because sometimes, yes, we plan and we be strategic, and yes, that's our skill set. But then luck happens, and something in the environment drops in that provides a different opportunity for you to do something that you really hadn't thought of before. And so both things are happening at the same time. And so if you're not curious, then you're going to lean into one versus the other.
Yeah.
If you're curious, you're probably going to be interested in both of them and how they can feed and balance each other. And that poem that says, two roads diverged in the woods. And I took the one that was less traveled, and I've been all the better since. But I say two roads diverge in the woods, and we're going to take both.
Yeah. Let's go down this one, and then let's go down this one,
Yeah.
and then afterwards we'll have an experience with both, and we can choose what to do.
Yeah, we can use technology, communication, partnerships, and all that to accomplish both tasks. So you can be. So I think it's those things. So when I tell a young leader, be curious, be open, leverage your skills, leverage your technology, and leverage the collaborative efforts of other people that are willing to help you along that journey.
What do you love about IU Northwest, the region? You've been here a year. Tell me some of the things. I came to the region 19 years ago.
Yeah.
I fell in love with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What have you found in your first year that you really appreciate?
One of the things that I really appreciate, no matter where I go, if I go to Bloomington, I go to Indianapolis, I go to Michigan City, or over in Illinois, Chicago area, when I run into people that know about Indiana University Northwest, they have a strong affinity for the university, the campus. They all see that university as being valuable and as a point of pride, and they have great hopes for the university's future, which is amazing. Just like I said, just anywhere you go. And then the supporters, the donors, and the longtime friends of the university, they continue to show up. Even President Whitten was on campus, and she said, one of the things I like about the Indiana University Northwest campus is that when we have an event here, people show up.
Yeah.
And so the rooms are full of people, and they're interested in what we're doing. The other piece is just the great opportunities here to partnership, leverage, tap into resources that we haven't had a chance to tap into before. Just those opportunities are exciting and feed into that curiosity. Then, of course, the others are just a great deal of love from the faculty and staff and the students that are there working to make that university better than it was in the past. And so all those things, they give me energy every day.
We see it. We're at tons of your events, and we see it, and you could definitely tell it through what's getting communicated out from the university. But there's, everybody's got a pep in their step.
Yeah, and so I love that, and because it just verifies in real time how valuable IUN is to this region. So those things I have learned, and I'm looking to learn more because it's still. Yes, I've done as much as I could for the year one to try to get connected and know everybody and have the meetings and attend all the things and events and fall in love with the culture of IU. But now it's my second year, and so there's still a lot of work to do. And now we've got some things in place. Let's implement that. And then what are the other new things that we can lean into going forward that's going to propel the university to move forward?
That's awesome. Well, you sound like a lifelong learner. I'm sort of the same. I'd like to be a little bit smarter tomorrow than I am, limited today. But thanks for an engaging discussion about you, about IU Northwest, a little bit about the culture and leadership. But thanks for sharing your story, because that's where I think everybody can learn from is, how did you get there? And it's usually not like this.
No.
It's usually more like this. And I think you're a great example of that, lifelong learner.
Yeah, yeah.